That, my friends, is a legit musical expression of Myth Forever. I kid you not. Hey random stranger, so Gura released one final song today, and since we've dived into Reflect, her very first one, let's see what her last one has to say.
Face to face this time again, we walk once more to the end. Burn it down, burn it down. Waves can't put out my flame. Death will never write my name. Burn it down, burn it down. They say the memory of me is fading.
Okay, do you like how the dominoes putting them down was on the beat? Man, we've got another really dark one. God, that really punches you in the face, doesn't it? It's just like a sequel to Reflect, is what it feels like. Just always heading towards that 5 chord. Back to the 1. Like B minor? God, it's so slow and excruciating. Ooh. God, that brass. They changed the progression there. Even though it still feels like cyclical. And I love those like war drums when we've got these galleons in the background. Shit. This is super arcane-like, isn't it? I mean, visually, musically, thematically. Oh, is this the continuation of Blue Gura versus Red Gura? Ooh, that's different. She's gonna come up rising from the ashes very soon. Da, da, da. Oh, I love that the chord progressions change there when Myth comes in. Oh shit. A window closes, another door opens. Mad props to Gura and Casey Edwards. I feel like with Ash again, you're not just hearing a song, you're experiencing an entire journey that doesn't just hit one emotional note, but it creates this whole spectrum of feelings that really resonates with what is a very complicated human experience. It really reminds me of tracks like Goodbye and Isha's song from Arcane. It's that category of music that somehow manages to be just both heart-wrenchingly sad and tragic, but also super powerfully uplifting and kind of a hint of hopefulness at the same time. Man, I'm just trying to like condense the several profound themes I think that Ash again tackles. Standing strong when others try to tear you down, burning things down, but then rising from your own ashes again, defining yourself and taking control instead of letting others control you and write your story. It's like really tapping into the whole phoenix mythology about how things burn down and then there are ashes and everything just seems really shit, but then eventually, something new and better and stronger rises from the ashes. What really made this song click for me personally, of course, was the music and how the music itself reinforces those themes. You know me, like I'm all about how do the chord progressions, how does the dynamic build up, and all of those really well-placed moments of tension and release, how do they all work together to tell the same story, the story that the artist wants to give us? And I think like other great, epic, emotionally complex songs, Ash again definitely did not rush to give us that final emotional payoff. Instead, it really takes us on a journey. Like it held back its full emotional punch until we traveled through all the ups and downs of the song together and really felt Gura's emotional journey. It's that patient development that makes the eventual catharsis that we got feel so earned and so powerful. So let's just go back right to the beginning and break down how the song's musical architecture was able to create such a powerful impact. So this song starts off by sitting on the B minor, the 1 chord, because the song is in B minor for what feels like forever. Like 6 whole measures until it moves to here. And then it's back to the B minor again for another 4 whole measures. Sitting on that B minor, that melancholic 1 chord, it's definitely creating a feeling of being stuck or trapped in some sort of prison again. And I love that it matches those opening lines, like face to face with time again. It's like the music is saying, here we are again in the same emotional prison, feeling these same shitty feelings. We've definitely been here before. Well, shit. And then when it does finally move to the G, it's like taking a quick breath, before you sink back down again. That little taste of major movement is what, I'd call a false hope effect. It's just this tiny, small emotional release, the G major, that doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't deliver you from anything because it just sinks back down into the waves again. And then back to the B minor. It's a lot like having a brief moment of hope before things just go bad again. And it's just this ongoing struggle. Okay, so the pre-chorus. This is where it gets more interesting. And then again, so this 3 chord progression, B minor, D, F sharp major. Starting on that B minor grounds us in the initial established feeling that was set up in verse 1. But then instead of going da, 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 going down. In the pre-chorus, we're going da, da. We're going the opposite way. It's an upward emotional trajectory, which starts on B minor and moves up to the D major to sort of brighten things up again with a major chord. And then it lands on the F sharp, which is the dominant chord of the B minor. And it creates this, like, a very palpable tension that begs for resolution to the one. It really reflects that increasing emotional pressure that the lyrics are describing. They say the memory of me is fading. I've heard it all before. Don't tell me everyone around is waiting. I mean, you could take that in a bunch of different ways, but it seems like it's just the pressure of constantly having to put out content and streaming and doing all the billion things that idols have to do. As soon as you're not present, it's like, well, what are you doing? Where are you? Like, why aren't you putting out stuff? It's just this constant pressure. Because that 3-chord sequence is stated twice in a row, you know, it has that effect of creating even more tension the second time it comes around. We know what's coming, but the emotional stakes somehow feel even higher. And they do that partly also through thickening the instrumentation and, of course, introducing the drums and stuff that really build up into the chorus. It's sort of like how in life, certain challenges, they don't just happen once. They happen twice, they happen 3 times. And every time it just feels more intense because we recognize these patterns in ourselves, whether it's problems that we have internally or external pressures that are placed on us. Every time we experience them, it's not like they get easier. You know, sometimes in fact it gets even harder because we've been there before and it's like, why am I still stuck facing the same problems? Yeah, okay, so there's one note before we go into the chorus. That D, the first time that D enters chat, it also coincides with the first mention of the they, whoever they are. Maybe it's the haters, maybe it's the really impatient people who are like, Gura, why aren't you putting out stuff? Gura, Gura, Gura. It really pierces through because it's the first time that we've heard that chord and it's like, whoa, now there are other voices that's sort of intruding in on Gura's world. All right, into the chorus. Ah, that was brilliant. That G major chord, that 6th chord. There it is again. Penetrated down? That's not right. Oh, AI. The chorus pulls a really cool musical move. You know, it opens with that G. It's that bright major 6th chord that feels like there's been some sort of emotional breakthrough, emotional daybreak after all of that very somber minor key tension that's been built around the B minor. But just when you think that we've broken through to something, you know, through the emotional darkness and through the depression, through to something brighter, more hopeful, the progression actually just slides back down to F sharp and then right back to that B minor. It's kind of like a false dawn effect, a false hope effect. It offers a glimpse of a hopeful resolution before that quickly gets pulled away right from out under your feet. And then you're back in the gloom. And then in the second half of the chorus, it changes slightly. But still, it goes back to the B minor a lot. But then here, F sharp, the 5th chord, it really teases resolution, but it never really fully delivers it. And by building the chorus all the way up to that final F sharp, the 5, it maintains this incredible emotional tension. It's not completely hopeless because it's not only just circling back down to the B minor, but at the same time, because we're not offered the full resolution in the chorus to the 1 again. How would I describe it? It's not completely hopeless, but it's not naively optimistic either. You know, it lives in that very complex emotional middle ground where, you know, that's what a lot of real human struggles are like. It's never just black and white. It's never just, okay, I'm fully okay now, or I'm completely, you know, a house on fire. It's just somewhere conflicted and complicated in between that. Verse 2 is where it gets even more interesting.
Voices rise in my head.
B minor.
The hands that pull at my thread. Let them drown, burn it down. Waves are washing the tide.
Just wait for it. C sharp, D. That C sharp. Why is the appearance of that C sharp so important? Unlike that stuck in place feeling of verse 1, where it's just sitting on that B minor, this verse 2, it takes us on a journey. The progression expands quite dramatically. It goes B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, all the way up to that 5. It's this climbing upwards pattern that makes us feel like we're making actual progress. I think this is the part of the journey where Gura she's still listening to all of those internal and external voices in her head, and still feeling all of that pressure, but she's no longer just reacting to them. You know, she's processing all of the information and the feelings and the pressure, and she's kind of starting to formulate and develop a more solid response to all of her challenges. So we get another chorus, again, building tension, like really upping the ante in terms of the rising dynamics, which then all just kind of collapses into this quieter, long ass, very unusually elongated bridge.
We swim against the current, safe in dark. We chase
7,
as smoke
5,
returns
6.
navigating sunken depths and all of it.
So that progression, B, A, F, G. That first sequence of this first half of the bridge, that repeats 4 times. And it creates this almost like hypnotic effect. Obviously, the instrumentation has also cut out a lot, creating that space. But in that chordal progression too, the repetitiveness of that chord progression, it's like this is the moment to really take a step back, take a breath, to see the bigger picture and to reflect. Here is also where the lyrics get quite a bit more metaphorical and even more hopeful here. You know, things like swimming against the current's aim and navigating the sunken depths. You know, it's kind of feeling like Gura is finding her direction a little bit more, and the music creates space for that sort of reflection. And then in the second half of this bridge, there is another dramatic shift to an ascending bass line. It kind of makes you feel like we're finally digging ourselves out of this hole step by step, finally climbing up this monstrous mountain. So it's B, C sharp, D, E, and then again, stepping up, and another step up. And Gura can make it because she's stepping up again. Just that upwards, slow, excruciatingly slow climb up. I like that repetition of the... Why did my keyboard turn into spooky horror time? Anyway, that repetition, it makes this climb feel earned. You know, it's not a sudden breakthrough, but it's a very hard-won ascent. Just like, you know, real emotional growth takes a lot of step-by-step work. It's taking each day, one day at a time. But man, freaking why, this is my favorite moment of this entire song. This is not the first time that we've had a climb before. If you remember back in verse 2, we also had a similar upwards bassline climb, but it's a single note bassline climb. B, C sharp, D, E. However, when we get to this part of the bridge and myth comes in, it is much more clear that C sharp, it's way clearer that there is a chord of a C sharp major there instead of just that single solitary C sharp. And that was the exact point in the MV. Like, holy freaking heck, they brought in the rest of the Myth members. They were like supporting Gura, holding her hand, giving her a hug, just being there with her and for her. And that was exactly the moment where we, for the first time, clearly heard these other notes in the chord in the C sharp major come through, nice and clear. That is so freaking blew my mind. The genius of using the presence of all of those chordal notes in the C sharp as opposed to just that single solitary lonely C sharp bass note to emphasize that yes, Gura has had to do a lot of work herself to get to where she is now, but also it's the Myth members who came together around her, and I am positive that they support each other behind the scenes now, even though some of them, have gone away from Hololive. That support was the key to Gura finally breaking through and just finding herself. Oh my god. That, my friends, is a legit musical expression of Myth forever. I kid you not. And then just it runs all the way to the end. I do love her vocalizations here. So haunting. And where do we end? The B minor. I mean, the very soft, like, octave piano notes also emphasize the B minor again, as if to remind us, remember where we started? The final chorus, yes, it brings us home by ending on the B minor instead of hanging unresolved. And yes, the B minor did set like a melancholic tone at the start, but returning to our starting point feels right. Like, it feels satisfying because we've returned after having taken this whole emotional up and down journey. It's kind of like saying, yes, I may be kind of back where I started, but I'm not the same person I was when I began this journey. Yes, I may be facing similar challenges as in the past, but I've definitely grown as a person throughout this whole process, and I'm going to come back again better and stronger than before. To sum it up, this is a solid monster of a song. I think the genius of Ash Again is how its musical structure and its chord progressions directly support its key themes. The theme of standing your ground. I think the persistent returns to the B minor throughout the song, yes, musically represents the constant pressure and sort of the melancholy and the depression that Gura has fallen into in the past or even now. But also returning constantly to that B minor also is like this determination to just always come back home, like always stay true to yourself despite that pressure. I think the way that the chords through each verse and then the chorus and then the bridge, how they all expanded on chord complexity each time as we progress throughout the song reflects sort of this growing self-confidence in Gura and like this ability of her to define herself on her own terms. And I think we should all support that. Yeah, I think Ash Again and other songs like it, like in that sort of category, they share a smart approach to building emotion. They don't show all of their cards at once. Instead, they start small and they just grow the progressions and grow the emotion patiently. It feels like you've actually earned that emotional payoff. The way that they use like tension, they'll shift between minor and major sounds. And at times, they'll throw in some suspended chords to create this very thick tension and anticipation. It also creates that sense of bittersweetness. They're able to balance out seemingly opposing emotions. It's sad and yet determined. It's very personal, like it speaks very personally to Gura's struggles, but also they're universal struggles that we all experience. The production in Ash Again and other similar songs, they start with like minimal instrumentation, and then they layer in more elements. They use reverb and like these atmospheric effects to create a lot of emotional space, and the vocals too. Like the vocals, they build in intensity throughout the song, and they go up and down, mirroring sort of that emotional journey that the chords are taking us on. I think this was a kick-ass final goodbye, not goodbye song. Ash again drives home this message that life is not about having a single breakthrough moment, but it's a series of breakthroughs. Our life goes in cycles. We have setbacks, we have victories, and then we have more setbacks. It's these small victories, these small steps that gradually change us and transform us and turn us into better people. I wish all the best for Gura. It's clear that this is not the last of her that we're going to see, and she's just going to kick ass no matter what.